Today's episode is a little different. I'm not going to teach a strategy or walk through any research. I'm going to tell you the truth about why I built the Executive Function Skills course, who it's for and who it's not for. And I'm going to be more honest than I'm comfortable with because I think you deserve that. I want you to hear the real story, not the polished version, the real one. So let's go. I started teaching in 2002 in Florida at a public magnet school, and this school was a college prep school, and so a lot of my students were brilliant. They had tested gifted, many of them were really highly intelligent, but for some reason they were drowning, and not academically, but structurally. They could understand AP and IB content deeply and really, really well. They could actively apply higher order thinking skills. They could analyze causes better than most adults, but they couldn't organize their backpack. They couldn't plan for their after-school activities effectively. They couldn't start on time. They couldn't manage the emotional weight of being smart enough to know they should be doing better. And for years, I taught them the way that I was trained. I would accommodate them. I would help create modifications. I would help them develop notebooks and organizational systems. And it helped. And it helped a little, and it helped often, but it was a little bit. And the same students who use my systems in my classroom would be fine in my classroom, but they couldn't do it outside of my class. The skills were not transferring. And I remember a specific moment in a parent-teacher conference where this was early in my career, maybe 2015, where a mom said, he does great in your class, his notebook is super organized, and he's doing really well, and he's comfortable in your class, but all of his other classes are a disaster, and his bedroom is a disaster, and there's just papers and notebooks and note cards all over the place. Why can he do it for you, but not for anybody else? And the honest answer was because I was actually doing the executive function for him. My classroom structure, my prompts, my visual schedule, my check-ins. I was the scaffold. And when my students left my room, the scaffold left as well. And so they were out there like free-ranging their executive function skills with really negative results and high levels of stress, high levels of problematic emotional regulation, and they were just drowning. This was a moment I realized I wasn't teaching executive function. I was performing it on behalf of my students, and I called it support. But the reality is I was actually just making my life easier because they could find their stuff for me to grade in a quick amount of time. And I was making my job easier because I had less late work getting turned in. They didn't lose things as easily as they did for other classes. So it was actually making it easier for me to not have to hunt down papers. But the reality is I wasn't teaching the actual skill. And it took me years to figure out what to do differently. I went and got a master's degree in special education from the University of Central Florida. And I did my national board certification twice. And I also got an instructional design certification because I realized the way we were designing interventions was fundamentally wrong. We were designing for compliance and not for competence. And then I started designing the course, not as a product. Originally, it was for my classroom. Originally, it was for my own kids. I wanted a systematic way to teach the actual skills and not just provide the accommodations or the modifications. I wanted to find a way to really help students understand their own brains and assess their own strengths and weaknesses and build their own systems instead of borrowing mine. As I transitioned out of the history classroom and into a full support role within our exceptional student program, I was teaching a lot of my students these executive function skills. And so they were starting to externalize the language. They would say things like, my working memory is full, or my cognitive load is maxed out. And they started building their own strategies instead of waiting for me to hand them one. And they started to apply these things within their other classes. And it was really awesome to watch these students who would struggle to complete any of their homework assignments actually not just get homework completed, but get it done early. And they were presenting themselves to their teachers in a much better way. And there was proof of concept. But the course in its current form, the one that I'm launching, is for adults. It's for parents, because I realized something that changed everything. And this is the uncomfortable part. And this is what most parenting programs skip. Your child's executive function develops inside the environment you create. And the environment you create is shaped by your own executive function. There's a study by Alice Crandall and colleagues that showed parental executive function is a significant predictor of parenting quality, which in turn predicts child executive function development. It's a chain. Your EF shapes your environment, and your environment shapes your child's executive function skills. If you are struggling with organization, your home is probably less organized, not because you're a bad parent, because organization is an executive function skill and it has a genetic component. Friedman and colleagues at the University of Colorado found that individual differences in executive function are almost always entirely genetic in origin. So when I say the adult course comes first, I'm not being strategic, I'm being scientific. If you want to build your child's executive function, start with yours. Not because you're broken, because you are the environment. Every module in the course is designed to be applied to your life first. Your working memory challenges, your time management struggles, your emotional regulation patterns. And then once you understand the skills in your own body, you can learn to recognize it in your child's. And you can scaffold it. And you can gradually release the support as they build their own capacity. The high school and middle school versions of the course will launch in August with Back to School, but the adult version is the foundation. It's the one that makes the others work. And let me be specific. This course is for you if you're a parent or caregiver of a neurodiverse child, ADHD, autism, giftedness, any type of learning difference, anxiety, any combination, and you've tried tips, read books, bought planners, and nothing has stuck. You understand the problem intellectually, but you can't make the solutions work in real life. This course is for you if you suspect your own executive function needs some support, whether diagnosed or not. If you lose your phone 3 times a day, you forget appointments, you start projects and don't finish them, or feel like you're always behind, that's not a personality flaw. That's executive function, and it's teachable, and it's learnable. This course is for you if you want a system, not a quick fix. If you're willing to work through 8 modules, do the self-assessments honestly, and practice the strategies even when they feel awkward at first. Executive function skills develop through practice, just like any other skill. There are no shortcuts, but there is a path. This course is not for you if you want someone to fix your child without changing anything about your own approach. The course starts with you. If you're not willing to look at your own patterns, it won't work. This course is also not for you if you need clinical level intervention. If your child is in crisis, if there's self-harm, severe behavioral challenges, school refusal with no engagement, you need a therapist, not a course. I'm an educator, not a clinician, and I'll say that very clearly. It's not for you if you want a curriculum you hand to your child and walk away. This is a co-construction process. You learn it, and then you build it with your child together. And I'm going to say something I've never said publicly. I almost didn't launch the course. Not because the content wasn't ready, not because the research wasn't there, because I kept thinking, who am I going to be able to teach this to? I'm a teacher. I'm not a researcher. I'm not a psychologist. I'm a mom who figured out some stuff through 20 years of trial and error and a lot of reading. And then I realized that's exactly why this course needs to exist. The research is excellent, but lives in journals that parents don't read. You don't have time to read that stuff. And the clinical interventions are effective. And if you're like most parents, the first time you called the pediatrician to ask for a referral for an evaluation, the evaluation was set 6 to 8 months in the future. That's almost an entire school year without an evaluation to figure out what was going on. So your child didn't get the help that they needed in time. And the stuff that is accessible, the blog posts, the Instagram infographics, the 5 tips for ADHD articles, it's a lot of surface level content. It doesn't stick because there's no system underneath it. I'm not a researcher, but I've read the researchers. I'm not a clinician, but I've worked alongside clinicians for 2 decades. What I am is a translator, someone who takes the science and turns it into something a parent can actually use on a Tuesday afternoon when their kid can't start their homework. That's the course, that's what it does, and I'm done apologizing for it. Okay, let's talk about the practical stuff. We're wrapping up our beta testing and doing the tweaks that's being suggested by our learners, and enrollment for the full course opens on Monday, June 23rd. Launch pricing will be available through June 30th. After that, it moves up to the standard price. You're going to want to register for the course early. And another feature that I haven't really mentioned about the course is that there is a community associated with the course. You're not just taking the course in isolation. Online learning can feel very isolated, and I wanted to make sure that the learning management system I used did have a community aspect. So I've put the link for the enrollment in the show notes so you can go ahead and click over there and pre-enroll right now. Next week, we're going to do a little midsummer check-in, so I'll see you then.